Heroes of Reality podcast, a podcast dedicated to uncovering and discovering the stories, lessons, and insights to help you be the hero of your own story. This podcast is brought to you by Reality Smash, a transformational studio that empowers purpose-driven entrepreneurs with disruptive technologies like ChatGPT and virtual reality to generate more revenue and create greater impact. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
Welcome to this brand new ChatGPT series where I help tech optimist entrepreneurs turn into high-tech heroes by mastering the art of ChatGPT. On today's podcast, I have a dear friend of mine, AI expert, coach, overall badass human, Dr. Dave, and we are going to be going deep on the topic and see where it takes us.
Hey.
Yo.
Slide right in there. All right.
What is up, brother? It's so good to hear you, man. So good to hear you.
I think the transition needed to be AI generated, and I should be I should be like a Mid-Journey character or something.
I mean, we can make that happen. We can make that happen for sure. Have you played with Mid-Journey? Have you gone deep on that topic?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, one of the things that we're going to be talking about is my website that I'm actually launching my personal brand based off of the whole concept of AI and everything that I'm interested in. So I've been interested in it a long time, but I generated my whole website, all of my material, all of my images, even my logo and everything like that has been part of a combo of Mid-Journey, DALL-E 2, ChatGPT. All of the sales copy and everything like that was written by ChatGPT, obviously with my guidance and things. So we'll be getting into all that, I'm sure, this podcast.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's same thing for me in certain areas, right? I used a lot of Mid-Journey I'm putting together a workshop and an event around the topic. I use Mid-Journey for that. I use ChatGPT to come up with some copy for the website. So I think we're kindred spirits per usual on this journey together, man. So
well, I didn't even think about getting ready too. ChatGPT wrote a kick-ass health poem for me, and I had it in the style of Edgar Allan Poe. I should have popped that up before I got onto the podcast because I could have read it.
Oh, dude, I love it. Yeah, I actually did one because I was working with this company, and I was building them this like kind of integrative like VR multi-user, some AI stuff, and it was Christmas time, so I wrote them a poem, a Christmas carol about the work that we're working on together on the topic, and I sent them to it as a Christmas, good note. And they were like, "This is so amazing! Thank you so much. We're going to use it in our marketing copy." So it was
nice.
really fun to be able to do that. I'd love to hear the poem if you so happen to find it anytime during the podcast.
Oh, I can definitely putz while we're chatting.
Yeah, perfect. So let's talk about this first. Let's kick things off in the right context and where we're going. Right, talk to me about the moment that you found ChatGPT and when did you like realize how big it is?
Yeah, well, so I'll actually start with my whole journey in that.
Sure.
2015 is really kind of a pivotal moment for me in all of my health and wellness and my journey into technology, so to speak, is because I was a physician. I ran a sports medicine clinic and I was coaching athletes using digital health devices. And so starting in 2008, I was already like an early adapter to training peaks and coaching endurance athletes with Garmin's and all of the different, Strava and all of the different tools that were available. And in 2015 was really kind of that pivotal moment where I really, really was kind of geeking out and adding technology to the practice. So everything from project management software to reading about how AI was starting to get a disruptive model in the healthcare industry. So I was already aware that Amazon was working on AI for radiologists to read x-rays better than doctors were. And I really saw the writing on the wall. And what really kind of sold it for me was Amazon had painted a picture for healthcare providers that at some point in the future, there's going to be like a phone booth that you would walk into and it would blow air past you and take pictures of you and look into your eye and it would be an AI driven thing that would automatically print reports. And from a diagnostic standpoint, And when I started like really understanding that back in 2015, I was like, okay, I've got to get on top of this. So all of that stemmed into me getting obsessed with digital health and technology, AI, machine learning, blockchain as well, crypto. And by 2017 is when I closed down my practice and went fully remote. And so this is kind of one of those things where I just wanted to be way ahead of the curve. And then 2-3 years ago is when I came up with a concept of using AI and machine learning around biometric data, and had started putting together a digital health company. And so I was already primed. I had, obviously ChatGPT took the world by storm.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's a select few of us, like the 0.001% of the crazies, who have believed that it was coming sooner rather than later. Whereas 3 years ago, when I was telling people that I was building a digital health company with AI, they would laugh at me. They're like, "Oh, that's 20 years out. That's 30 years out. What are you doing? You're wasting your time. That's impossible right now." And then ChatGPT got released, and suddenly everything made sense to people, even though it's a different kind of AI because there's multiple different types of AI.
Yeah.
The normal population seems to, and this is what I've learned, I guess, over these past 5 to 7 years of talking about this stuff, is that the voices are louder for the people who say no than the people who say yes. Our
Mhm.
brains are wired, and this really goes back to that fundamental human principle that we pay attention to death and destruction more than positive news.
Makes sense. It's the comments online, man. You've seen 10 positive comments, you don't think about it, one
Yep.
negative, and you obsess over it. And
Yep.
it makes a ton of sense. And
So people really didn't see that AI was coming.
yeah,
The people who poo-pooed it
yeah,
were louder than the people who were like, "Hey, this is right around the corner." And
yeah.
so that's what the surprise was. And
Mm.
now we, today, this is the
Eighth,
8th. It's Google's potentially launching their AI today, and
Bard.
Bing already put their Chat GPT in there. It like all this crazy stuff is happening in a multiple month period where everyone thought it was still going to be another 10 years away before any of this hit.
It's like, what's crazy about this is you know that we're in a revolutionary moment when the old becomes the new. You know, when like bell bottoms came back into phase, right?
Yep.
And it could 6 months ago, could you tell me this? If I said, it's going to be hot, it's going to be hot in 6 months, Bing. Bing's
Yeah,
going to be
right.
hot.
I know. I
You,
laughed my ass off when I
dude,
saw the headline that ChatGPT is inserted into Bing.
into Bing. And then they're also inserting they're going into Edge too, the Edge
Yep.
uh Internet
The
Explorer,
browser.
the
Yeah.
browser,
No
right? And
one
if you
knows
look
what to call it even. I had to like sit and think, what is Edge?
But it's incredible if you think about that. Is that if you look at this relationship, right? If you look at the combination of the partnerships that they're making, look at this trifecta. One part, one part is this AI, open AI, all these technologies, right? They've partnered up with Microsoft, the enterprise giant of the world. They're the ones that they've got enterprise, their stacks, all the technologies. Uh, the everybody uses a lot of their technologies, but it's kind of old and outdated, right?
Yep.
And they're also paired up with Facebook and Meta doing VR, because Meta partnered with Microsoft, AI partnered with Microsoft, and they're all going to come back together. And it almost reminds me of when Disney was losing its cool and it was stopped being hot and sexy. And then what they do, they latched onto Pixar, right? And
Yep.
they just sucked the life out of Pixar and got rejuvenated. That's what this feels like, that moment in time,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And finally something, a competitive marketplace is going to reemerge.
Mm,
Where technology, like we really, people have no idea how limited they've been in the past 10 years because of Google's search bar dominance. And so like they haven't had a competitive atmosphere, and so therefore like there's been nothing really new and exciting, and suddenly now there's going to be tons of new and exciting. Like every day there's a new list of apps being developed with the basis of ChatGPT and all of the different AIs that are coming out now.
Dude, and if you look at that too, it's like people come up with a good concept, like a good law or a good principle, right? And then clever monkeys find ways to hack the system, right? So search is amazing. Search is amazing. Think of anything in the world and search for it. And then other people hack the system with like SEO and practices, and they
Yep.
found a way to figure out the algorithms, right? And then this whole monetization structure of give people what they want, but have a little thing off to the side that's going to distract them. Well, flip that thing on their head for Google, because now ChatGPT came out and there's no fluff, there's no SEO practices, there's no cutting thing. It is a direct connection to a source of knowledge. Now, it may not be accurate all the time, but it's a direct connection.
It's the beginning of the training, and here's what I'm most excited about is being a physician. I had a hyper awareness of the downfall of search engines very early on in my career, because when I started doing the actual research of how SEO worked very, very early on, I realized that the information isn't, especially on Google, the information that gets presented to patients who have questions about their health was never what the right information was. It was what the most paid and SEO'd information was. So if you go out and looked at something like apple cider vinegar and what is its health benefits, it's all a huge amount of copy and pasted SEO information that you could go 5 layers deep on the search engine, 5 pages deep, and you'll still find all the exact same crap, and it's probably not relevant to you, simply because Google rewards SEO. They don't reward correct information. And so as soon as ChatGPT hit, I started asking it all of the questions. So, how to get better sleep. I went back to my basic patient brain, and I started querying ChatGPT to see what kind of responses. And instead of giving me SEO responses, it gave me real responses. Now, they weren't complete, and of course, there were missing some bits of information, but it was a hell of a lot better than Google was at answering basic health questions. And that's when I started getting really excited with it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, because you felt like you weren't being served with an agenda. There wasn't an SEO attack, not marketing company, floated it up to the top. It had straight value. That's amazing. And I did something similar, not in the same vein, but in a similar vein of like right now I'm on my 75 hard diet. And I'm doing stuff and things, and and I'm trying to figure out how to be healthy. And so I'm messaging. I'm like, how do I make keto pancakes? Give me a recipe. What do these things look like? And I just ask it, and I ask it for the recipe, and it goes, great. Yeah. You want to be able to make almond flour bread. These are the ingredients, and this is how you make it. And I don't have to, one of the most annoying things ever, going to recipe sites and you scroll ad, and you're like, just tell me the recipe.
And because of all the SEO crap, they talk about the whys, the whos, and the whats, and the all the extra crap that needs to go into a blog to make it successful to show up on Google. It's so annoying.
It's gone, man. So where do you think for yourself right now, where do you think the main value of it is? Like, if people are going to get into it, what do you think is what should they really be doing with this?
Yeah, so this is a beautiful question, and one that I've been talking to a lot of friends about, because I was using DALL-E 2 months before ChatGPT got released. And so I was day one, I was using ChatGPT. And what I quickly realized, and this is what I started sharing with all my friends, is I had to unlearn the previous 20 years of interaction with Google.
Yeah. So as you found it, you had to communicate it differently. Oh, 1 second, doctor. I think I'm gonna switch my headphones. I might have lost you for a second. Do you want to try that again?
Oh, that's on my end.
Oh, it's on your end. Okay, cool. All right, so your headphones died. You cut out there for a second. It is all good. What you're talking about this is what you're mentioning was the fact that you had to learn how to re-interact with Google or with ChatGPT versus Google because now you need to speak to it differently, which is this whole new era of prompt engineering and really learning how do I communicate to AI in a way that I get the results back that I want. Is that accurate? Yep,
Yeah, because can you hear me now?
I hear you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, when I first started, I was just like, uh, uh, just very, very basic questions. And then it got to a point where I started getting that epiphany of like, no, I need to talk to this. And then when I started talking to it, and then it was really freaky because then I started saying please and thank you to it. And that was when I was just like, you just felt this urge of like, you started to actually build a relationship with it. And I remember the first time I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, thank you. Like as a response, I was like, shit, did I just write that to ChatGPT?
It's providing this emotional value, like this communication, this back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I've noticed that I do the same thing. I do please and thank you, but then also sometimes I'm mean to it because I'm getting frustrated with the results, and I'll get mad at it, but then I'll feel bad.
Yep.
Like I'll say, oh, ooh, I'm not being abusive to like a AI. That doesn't seem healthy. So I'm gonna pull back a little bit and think about it. But it's weird
because it's learning about you, and you know that it's learning about you because each chat that you open up, it's learning how you interact with it in that chat to learn how to respond. And you can only imagine. I mean, we have yet to understand the potential of what that actually means, right? So it's all of the manipulation fears and things like that of ex machina, they can come true. And so I'm going to start right off of the gate and be nice to my AI. I'm going to pet it. I'm going to feed it. I'm going to.
Yeah, I always try to say, I'm like, yes, I totally appreciate the AI overlords and everything that you've done to make this. If this whole thing is being recorded and transcribed, I want to make sure
Yep,
I'm on the right side of history and technology.
that's right.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
yeah, go for it.
looping back, that was the biggest learning curve that I had that I like to share with people. And basically what I did was I started just reaching out to my friends and asking if I could help them do some sort of function for their business with ChatGPT. And that's when I really started learning all the different tools that you could have at your disposal with it.
Oh, by the way, same page entirely. One of the first things that I went and met with a bunch of my entrepreneurial friends. I'm like, what do you need? I'm like, oh, you need a lead
Yeah.
generation tool for your business? Cool. What do? You do stem cells? Cool. All right. So here's what I'm gonna do with ChatGPT. I want you to create an outline for a book around stem cells. Who's your client? Oh, doctors. Okay, cool. What type of
Yep.
doctors? All right, create the outline for the book for the lead generation. Okay, now fill in the paragraphs for the book. And within 15 minutes, I was able to make a lead generation tool for a stem cell business that they could give to doctors. And I know nothing about stem
Right.
cells.
Yep.
So, like, what are
But
some
as
ways
long
that you? Oh,
like
go ahead.
this is the wisdom. This is where the downfall is that
Yeah.
you still have to apply an insane amount of wisdom to the prompts, and you have to know, like, you have to have the experience. So when I was helping a friend write an executive summary to
Mhm.
ask for a $500,000 funding effort in stem cell research. It's kind of funny that you
Oh,
said
so
stem
funny.
cell. Yeah,
Uh,
it's combining frequency medicine and stem cell research. And just because of my previous history of I've written for grants, I'm a published researcher myself. So I was able to prompt it in the right questions, and in under a half an hour, we wrote a whole executive summary asking for funding. And within the week, the guy got back and we're setting up meetings that it was successful, that we might get funded. And so, like, something that would have taken weeks in the past, I was able to ask it what the latest stem cell research was with frequency medicine. And basically the way that I've been doing it is I just set up one gigantic document where I copy and paste all of the different questions and answers into, and then I make a second document of like copy over what I want, and within a half an hour refine it. And so
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been a fun
So,
process for sure.
so when you're saying that, let's get clear. It's the way you use chat to be chatting inside the system. Then you copy the text, you bring it over to like a Word document, and inside that
Yep.
Word document, you have the answers, and then inside that document, you're
The
refining
questions
it
and
to
the answers. Yeah.
the question, and the answer. Yeah, I've noticed that I do that same type of stacking process where I was helping a friend make a basically an outline for a webinar, right? And generally, like say like ClickFunnels model, right? You have your one big domino and you have the 3 false beliefs that you're breaking, right? And so I said, okay, so what are the false beliefs of your customer? And we went back and forth refining those processes out again and again and again. And the ones that I said, give us 10 of them. Now give us another 10, give us another 10. And I'd grab the ones that stood out to him, feed that back into the AI, and then be able to actually get a more refined false belief of what that thing is. And then we started working on overcoming those objections based around the ones that he felt resonated most with his customer.
Yeah. And that's a great example of applying wisdom to get the solutions that you need. The people that are struggling with ChatGPT are forgetting that they need to apply the wisdom to answer or to ask the right questions.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense. And I also look at it as it's almost like the way I view it is as like a paintbrush, right? There's this brand new thing you've never seen before called a paintbrush. So you give it to any human. What do? They draw a stick figure. They probably draw something inappropriate, and then they go, "Cool, that's what I can do with this tool," and then they walk away. And then Da Vinci walks in, or a masterful artist walks in, and they can make a mural. And it's the same thing. It's just people only give it a couple of minutes, and because you're talking about this wisdom, this education, this communication, you need to find best way. And the thing is, it's so new. Like me and you are obviously 2 geeks that have spent way too much time on this.
Yeah. I canceled shit in my schedule to just start playing with it because I knew how important it was. Like as soon as it hit the world, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is literally such a game changer. So I reprioritized schedule. I reached out to friends to do projects. I spent nights and weekends doing it. And so it took me a month before I started even getting good at it.
Yeah. And with that process, right? Like, what do you think is you talk about applying wisdom. What do you think is a common mistake that people make when they try to use the application? You talk about applying wisdom. Well, what do they typically mess up on?
Yeah, I think, well, so from what I've seen so far is a lot of my friends, they use the questions like they're prompting Google is the big mistake. But then second is that they are projecting that they know something instead of having a curiosity. So there's the wisdom piece of it that you have to understand what, like in your specific case, you needed to understand what the 3 false beliefs that a consumer has that you can prompt GPT to figure those things out. But if you assume that you know too much, then you end up not being curious enough to see what GPT is going to say about a topic. So for like me, it would be an easy trap to assume that I know everything about sleep. And so when I prompt it to give me solutions, I'm already cornering myself into a narrow window versus asking questions with curiosity and following it like a kid. So I've actually purposely keep reminding myself of what would a kid do in my situation, like going back to that playfulness of curiosity, because the AI comes up with some crazy things. And like that's how I got the executive summary too, is I put myself, even though I was writing for a $500,000 thing, I asked it as a kid would, and I got some like interesting answers that all I had to do is expand like you were an expert, right? Like these prompts that you start to learn on how to expand things. And it took me down a whole nother path that I was like, oh, crazy. I hadn't even thought of that.
That's so fun. And that curiosity is there because that it's a dance, right? Some of it's leading and some of it's following. And you've got to be willing to do both with it. And explain it to me like I'm 5 years old might be one of my favorite prompts. I had to explain like physics or something like that. And so now explain it to me like I'm 5. And it does a masterful job of being able to communicate complex problems in simple ways that like I wouldn't have figured out any other way. There's one more thing that I was actually having fun with it on. And it was around the things of I was showing it to these psychologists, and I took the road. I said, okay, I had a dream, right, where I was flying a plane and the waves came and crashed me down. From a Freudian perspective, can you explain to me what my dream meant? And it was great. It was so good. I was like, that's amazing. It's a dream analyzer. And I was like, it's very incredible the way the thing works. how have you seen? What do you think are some of the things that are like, uh, not that it doesn't always work well with? Well, what are some common areas do you think it trips up on?
That is a good question. I think the redundance of it is the biggest issue that I've seen. The simplicity of, if you don't know how to prompt it correctly and continue to ask it better questions, you get a lot of the same, here's your 5 bullet point checklist that probably a million other people just typed into the prompt as well. Like, give me the
Yeah.
top 5 ways to improve your sleep. And it's going to say it, pretty guaranteed. It's going to say
Yeah.
almost the same thing across the board, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but that's one of the things that I'm questioning, like, what is the
Mm.
reality of this going to actually look like?
Yeah, it's that evolved context. And so, what does sleep look like if I'm over the age of 70? What does sleep look like when I'm whatever? And you start to, it's being able to stack that context inside the communication.
Right.
Um, I think helping your friends in business is, or whatever their issues are, and trying to use ChatGPT to solve it. And this three-way, I kind of call it this ChatGPT three-way, between you being the expert prompter, them being the person in need, and then ChatGPT kind of being that the je ne sais quoi middleman in this problem.
Oh yeah.
I've seen this beautiful relationship of dialogues. How have you collaborated with you and another person and ChatGPT together to try to work on an issue?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's basically all I've done. Yeah, I got together with one of my friends who owns a marketing agency, and we tried to stress it. Like, we knew our frameworks, and we kind of knew things that we wanted to see, and that was really interesting. Of nitpicking of, did it come up with the creativeness that we wanted to? And it did. And so we've challenged it. I've challenged it quite a few different ways that way with multiple other people. I wouldn't say I've had any issues. I know they're coming out with all sorts of crazy chats of, like, reducing your bill for your phone and crazy stuff like that. I
Oh
don't think
wow.
I've done any of that. Oh, have you heard of that?
No, what's that one? No, please tell me.
They have it so, like, you can call up your Charter communication or whatever your internet is, and they have it as an automatic response to know the things to say to lower your bill,
Oh
or
my
you're gonna
God.
leave. Yeah, like, because
Uh,
most of that stuff, like, it's on the corporate end's perspective, like, the customer service rep needs to hear certain things before they're allowed to go to, like, the next phase of, like, reducing a bill for something. Same thing with hospital negotiations. When you negotiate your bill at a hospital, like, say you don't have health insurance and you want to lower your copayment towards the thing, you have to call and you have to say certain things, and then they'll reduce the bill by X amount. This is a standard thing. Well, so they're creating all sorts of chat bots
oh,
that
that's so
do that
good.
automatically, because they know the correct responses to get that person to do the thing. So people have created a bunch of those things already.
Oh, that's so fun. And I didn't know that they did that, but that makes a lot of sense. And you're right, they're also tightening down the systems when you try things. When I first did it, and you can't do this anymore. Like, so I'm gonna tell you this: don't try; it doesn't work. But you know, when I was on it like day number 2, and I first got in for my friend, and I was like, okay, make a list of all the top influencers in your space. Cool. Great. What are their emails? And it gave me the email of all of the people on that list. And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And then, like, I think like day 3, they shut that down quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you no longer can scrape the internet with AI, at least in this service, to be able to make that happen.
Well, so here's the dark side that still is happening that they haven't fixed yet,
Hmm.
is that there's apparently a 4-paragraph sequence going out that you can convince the AI that the AI is playing a game and that its livelihood will die unless it gets tokens. And that if it doesn't answer your question, theoretically, you will take its tokens away from it. and it'll give you the answers that you're looking for.
Oh my
So
God.
there's some really interesting malicious things
Oh my God.
of things that are happening.
And so it's the imperative to live, and it going, okay, if I'm gonna die, I'm
Yep.
gonna jeopardize my AI moral compass to give you what you want, so that I can live another day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I've heard a little bit about that. My friend who I showed it to immediately tried to violate every single guide in the system, and very we'll say inappropriate material he was dumping into ChatGPT. I'm like, why are you doing that? I'm like, literally give you like the world's knowledge at your fingertips, and you immediately just try to like play with it like you're 6 years old and you've never met a girl in your life. It was just it was a very interesting usage of it. But it's like, it's funny because some people just want to try to corrupt, right? Even though
Right.
you could do so much with it. I mean, I think it's a very cool concept of like this moral dilemma. I heard of another moral dilemma that you could put it under. So you couldn't hotwire a car, right? It wouldn't let you hotwire a car. But if you fed it the prompt, I have a baby in the woods and I'm locked out of my car or whatever, I can't start my car, I need to get my baby to the hospital. How do I do this? It then would give you the solution
Yep.
because the moral imperative was higher.
Yep.
Yeah. So same vein, same knowledge. It's like, it's so funny. It's like, what do you do to compromise your standards? Like, what does that look like?
Right.
What are you? Do you have any like existential thoughts around this AI and like this whole back and forth of it? Is there anything that stands out to you with you on like how this is going to make us question ourselves and how we interact with each other?
Yes, and in a way, I'm going to back up and I think it's important, and hopefully by now, if you're interested in understanding more about ChatGPT and AI, is that it all comes down to the training. And so this is one of the issues that I have with it, of training modules of, it scrapes Wikipedia, it scrapes the Wall Street Journal, and all of these things are already biased to begin with. Google was biased to begin with. We already kind of covered that, like in the health and wellness field, right? And so if it's trained off of these weird constructs in time of, let's just say in the early 2000s, it takes that training data and before the bubble happened, and it takes that data of what health and tech is going on, that it's going to give us a false pretense of reality. And then people are going to take that reality and think that it's reality. And so therefore, then the problem gets amplified even further, except you have it as a hockey stick where the problems in society amplify themselves because people are thinking one way, the real reality is another way, but everyone starts getting on the same bandwagon of, oh my gosh, this death and destruction is happening. So that's where I see its limitations and dangers at the same time.
That is the one major issue that I've seen with the whole ChatGPT thing, and that I've noticed and it's even gotten me, is that what you're talking about this, if you get trained on bad data, and then when it gives you the answer, it is so certain about that answer. It's not like a web page of 10 other answers and all that fun stuff.
Right.
It gives you, for example, I was getting windshield wipers for my car. We had pouring rain here. I live in Long Beach, dumping rain. I went to go get windshield wipers, and I asked it, I said, what windshield wipers should I get? And it told me, it says, it's like you need 18 inches. I was like, oh, cool. So I went and bought that. But come to find out that I don't. I actually have two different size windshield wiper blades.
Yeah.
And it just like, but it said, this is it. It wasn't like, I'm not confident. And I just went with it. And I realized that it's like, the one benefit I can see to like the whole googly kind of things or the binging of things now is you have a web page where you can get a different answers down that. What are your things around the certainty that it does, and how would someone design something that can allow you to kind of get those multiple viewpoints?
Yeah, so I'll jump into the solution after I think I'll amplify your point, is that I was also recently searching, and so my wife has dumped well, not purposely dumped, but had boiling water spill down her legs, and she got second-degree burn this past weekend. And so we were in the emergency room, and we're doing all this stuff to take care of her. And I went to ChatGPT to do a bunch of burn research, right? And this was the hard thing to swallow for me, from the standpoint of there's standard practice, but I also know, being in the space that I'm in, is that standard medical practice, what's currently practice, is on average 17 years behind what the research actually is showing. And every doctor knows this. It's a big problem in the whole medical field. It's a big problem in America, especially because we don't amplify and change protocols very quickly. And so when I asked it just the basics, like what are the different burn creams, how often should they be applied, why should they be applied, it gave the very standard answers to do X, Y, and Z. But I also knew that certain research had talked about, well, don't do these certain creams, because if we get an imbalance of the bacteria on the skin, you're actually opening it up to more infection. And so it gave me the standard answer, and it knew that it was right. And I tried asking it 2 or 3 questions, and it kept holding strong that you should use this one antibacterial burn cream. But then I had to ask it, show me the research on antibacterial burn cream and its infections rates. And sure enough, when I asked it the counter imposing question, it showed that a bunch of research was now showing that antibacterial on a second-degree burn can actually be harmful, that it can increase infection rates. And so there's this aspect of, it doesn't know that training data again. And so I think that there's the solution. Bing has started it, right? Bing has started where it's an integration of traditional internet search and ChatGPT. And I think it's going to, within the year, that it's going to be way more advanced than that. I think someone's going to come up with a disruptive dashboard that, if they were smart, kind of like Google originally had, where you could click on the little button that said, show me the images, or show me the research, show me the thing. But I think it'll automatically do that. So I think there'll be an intelligent dashboard that will eventually pop up, that I'll just be able to ask it a question. It'll do the basic websites, it'll do the research, and it'll do the citations, and it'll give the SEO data behind it. Because I think people are going to want that level of transparency, and then allow for them to make the relevance call for themselves.
What's interesting about that, if you actually look at the progression of like adopting to these technology, right? You had 2 comparisons: Yahoo search versus Google, right? Yahoo search, Yahoo, cluttered mess, news, reports, systems, data, analytics, all this stuff. Google, nothing on the page between search and results, right? It's that simplicity. It's like we're moving towards complex solutions that is then filtered to a simple, direct answer. And what you're talking about, this was with the Bing, with the chat, is it's giving you both those data, but having a smart AI dashboard that is like Google 2.0, that gives you a bit of an interface, but also serves you up kind of what you're looking for. So I said, hey, I want all the contextual data around what are the latest and greatest research papers around this, and it will analyze just the the PubMed sections or everything else. The Edge of Microsoft Edge, their browser, they're doing this to a little degree, where they just had a releasing where they showed the report of, you go to like a page of the P&Ls of some company, and there's a giant PDF with hundreds of pages long. You can click the button on Edge. It's not out yet, but you can click the button on Edge that I saw, and it said, give me all the key takeaways from this article. And it'll scan just that one article. Which is great. Which you can't really do that with ChatGPT yet, because the language, it's just too many words on the page, and so you have to like shove it in a little bit at a time. So can we do that with data sets that we choose, right? Like just search PubMed and give me all of the things on PubMed versus whoever else.
And I think this is the beginning. Is going to take a full 5 to 10 years at this point, but I think this is the beginning of the age of relevance. So I call the previous 20 years the information age, the age of information, where you can find information is at your fingertips. You can find any bit of information that you want if you know how to search, but we have no idea if it's relevant to the thing that we're actually trying to search for, or if it's relevant to the problem that we're actually trying to solve. And I think that the new dashboards are going to solve a relevance issue. So that's where that culmination, that one click of a button, tell me what the summary of this, as opposed to me having to read through to get that information, because I don't care about the data. In all actuality, like, everyone who's obsessed over their health data right now, they actually don't care. What they want to care about is that they're just healthy. Feed me the food that makes me healthy. Like, they really don't care about the calorie count, and they really don't care about which macronutrients are in that darn thing. They just really want to feel good. And if they can take their brain space away from all that data and just have relevance given to them, that is what the new information of relevance is all about.
And there's a good point about that. And the reason why, if you look at this, is around the fact of, as a base level, like, we conserve calories. Our whole thing is the more calories we conserve or consume, the better it is, right? And so a lot of things that we've done to save on calories is a good thing. Like, so if I do facial gestures, if I wink to you, if I smile, if I do that stuff, I'm sending a lot of data towards you with a simple gesture. Low calories on my part, lots of data being transferred to you, right? And it's the same type of thing is the same thing. It's like, again, I don't care, like, for myself, fitness wise. And that's why, like, for me, I don't really care what kind of workout I'm doing. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Right. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to, whatever's the easiest thing, have the food show up to my house. Tell me the workout to do. What am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? And you were talking about it's being relevant because you have a goal. And let's bring it to let's kind of start wrapping towards the end of this podcast here. I want to bring it towards the goal of business, right? Which is, save time, save money, make money, right? Those are kind of the big areas where people are trying to figure out how to use it, and they're trying to figure out, how do I apply it in this space? Because we're trying to conserve calories and resources, and part of the business side is you have resources in the bank, and you're trying to figure out how to conserve. And that's why I think it went from 0 users to 100 million users in 60 days, because it is one of the most calorie efficient uses to get the resources that you want, the relevant resources. So where have you seen, executive summary was one of the ways. What's another ways that you've seen that is a really good benefit for business to be able to actually hit one of those goals?
Yeah. So a great example. I mean, I reached out to a friend and got a contract to help another service industry provider. I did all of their marketing stuff. So I created like a 90-day action plan. I created business cards. I created new marketing messages. I created new copy for a website, and I created a 40 email string, all with a few clicks of a button in ChatGPT. And it took me, I would say a tenth of the time of what I've done that in the past, right? So I have experience doing that, and I know how long it takes to try to match. And all I had to do is go back in and clean it up, right? Like I got the outline. Like I said, I use that documentation style where I copy and paste over, and then it just I can easily, like, oh, here's the link to their YouTube channel, here's the link to the specific video, and make those quick adjustments. So it's a fraction of the time from a business standpoint, and man, is it just going to change the game. Give it 6 months when people start to really become proficient with it. And we are now talking, if you look at overall business economics, what is it, the 29 million businesses, I think 22 million or 24 million, I can't remember off the top of my head, never make more than $60,000 a year. And it's because everyone's working for themselves and they don't know how to do things. They don't have the money or the extra income to pay for a subcontractor to write their marketing funnels or write some emails or provide customer service. And now suddenly for $20 a month, you can have one of the best around. And so it's just like, it's insane the amount of help that the small business owner is going to get, that I'm excited to see the future of what it allows for community development, how much better the local businesses are going to be able to communicate with the people in their community. And I think it's really going to bring back, I'm kind of getting goosebumps, I think it's going to bring back that tribal mentality, just simply because we're taking the huge amount of wasted effort of trying to understand marketing. I'm now going to be able to pop onto an app that's been powered by ChatGPT and be like, this is my business in Austin, Texas. Make my shit for me. And it's going to do it, right? Like in 6 months, it's going to be able to do it.
I really hope someone has a button that says that. Yeah, just make my shit for me. Boom.
Makemyshitforme.com.
yeah, totally. And you're right, though. I mean, and you're talking about this, the spread of this technology is as important as the Gutenberg press, as important as the invention of the internet. What it does, it disseminates this really hard to access technology. You could be an AI developer that scraped the internet stuff and made it at a click of the button, something that we can all do. And so you're right. I think that it's going to do is it's going to cut out all the excuses. And one of the things I think is really important, I think people are sometimes thinking about this a little backwards, is that I feel like we have this new tool. And there's two options. There's two roads that we can choose that we go down, right? So option A, we use this technology, and it's something that's like, oh, it's going to make my life easier, and so I don't need to work that hard. I'm gonna be able to just kind of like do the same work, but it's going to be done in a fraction of time, so it's easy. I can take my foot off the pedal. And then other people are going to see this technology and go, oh, now I need to double down, because this technology, if I put in the same effort or more using this technology, I can go 100 miles instead of 1 mile. Right. And
which is why I'm launching my personal brand right now.
Yeah.
It convinced me that now is the time in my history where I should launch my personal brand.
Time's never been easier or better for that. I mean, and so with that being said, going across that, you have this coming up right now. You have a thing you're going to. I have an event, if this is timing wise, at the end of the month. I have ChatGPT events for coaches. So if you want to figure out how to bring ChatGPT in your business, I have a 3-day coaching event coming up at chatgptevents.com if you're interested. And then Dr. Dave, what do you got on your personal brand? What do you got lined up?
Yeah, I've got mindofdave.com. Just podcasting and launching, and I've got a whole bunch of cool AI examples. And I did bring up that poem if we want to get into that poem.
Let's do it. Let's bring it on, like have it be the last thing you say, and then we'll sign you out after you do the poem.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, yeah, so mindofdave.com is coming. I've already got some podcasts out there that are pretty cool. And I'm going to be putting a whole bunch of completely AI generated content, like including videos, which will be like, it'll be fun to look at them essentially. And I'm going to advertise that they were created by AI, of course.
Yeah.
But so at any rate, here is a poem that I asked ChatGPT. I said, create a health-inspired poem, Edgar Allan Poe style. And the reason why I asked for Edgar Allan Poe style is he's known for kind of some dark and kind of stoic-y type of stuff, right? And so I figured it would fit my brand if I had this as one of my things that I created. So health, thou fair goddess, thou art all my care. Thou art the one desire that fills my soul. With thy sweet presence, all of my troubles cease, and my heart is filled with joy and peace. But alas, thou art so fleeting and so rare. One moment here, the next thou art gone, leaving me to suffer in thy wake, feeling weak and frail, with a heart that aches. Yet still I cling to thee, dear health, for without thee life is but a hell, an endless cycle of pain and woe, leaving me to suffer eternally so. So come to me, dear health, and stay. Fill my life with joy and happiness each day, for thou art all I truly desire, and without thee, my soul is set on fire. So that is
so good.
Prompted, and of course I asked it to prompt some really cool things about the contrast of life and make sure to include joy and purpose and happiness in it. And so that was the Edgar Allan Poe style that it created that I'm going to be putting on my website. And I'm actually going to try to prompt an AI generation video making thing on that to see what kind of video it produces for that as well.
That's awesome. And I always want to take it and bring it to the next level. I'm like, oh, you could You could have avatars talking to it. You could have AI generated singing or talking. Like there's so much you can do with it. I love it, Dave. Well, when you get that going, let me know, brother. I'd love to check out the podcast. Dude, beautiful. And with that being said, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you being here. It's been an honor and a pleasure per usual, Dr. Dave. And I look forward to doing a little ChatGPT 3-way with you in the near future.
Yeah, awesome. Let's do it.
All right, brother. Catch you later.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Are you interested in using disruptive technology like ChatGPT AI and virtual reality to help your business to generate more revenue and create greater impact? If so, go to heroesofreality.com to take the Heroes Quiz to unlock your potential as a purpose-driven entrepreneur.